There we go. There we go. And then we're going to pop out the chat window, put it on this monitor, do this to it, change this to live chat. Cool. There we go. One last one of those, hopefully. There we go. It's the camera right there. Hope you folks are doing well on this Sunday morning. For some folks, I think it's probably Monday, but, you know. Let's see here. Guess I'm early, says Patrick. Well, it depends on how, you know, early is a state of mind. Starting to bash my grail. Nice. Fingers crossed for a trench ghost force. I've been seeing people using night haunts for trench ghosts, and I'm intrigued. Will the game become something medium/large sized? I think it'll become what they want it to become, maybe. I mean, it's probably more than they thought. I'm sure that they did not ever expect to get $3 million+ on Kickstarter, but I don't think it needs to be a big, huge thing. I think it can be something. I think that tabletop gaming is changing. We're starting off hot here, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's just tabletop gaming is changing. Tabletop wargaming is changing, and it doesn't need to be necessarily something from a company that's like super well known and has like stuff in shelves and things like that. You know, I don't know. We'll see. But I had a lot of people in the comments in the video I made a couple of weeks ago about like, well, this is never going to beat, you know, Warhammer. And I'm like, who says it needs to? I think I mentioned that in the video as well. You could tell when people don't watch the video sometimes. But anyway, let's see. A friend of mine's really hyped about this game, wants me to get on board and start it too. Nice. Because it's Skirmish, it's not super difficult to do, at least in my opinion. Pretty rad looking game. NGL, which stands for Not Gonna Lie. I figured that out recently. Hopefully they don't go into colossal models like War Machine. Yeah, that's also, I agree. Hello from Amsterdam. Just finished varnishing a big pile of finished MDF ruins just in time to watch my favorite show. Well, that's very nice of you to say, Boss Button. Anyone play Trench Crusade yet? I mean, I've messed with the game loop myself. I've not played against a person yet, but I've messed with the game loop and I dig it. But the rules have been out. You know, you can download them right now if you want to. You just go to trenchcrusade.com and download them for free. And they've been out for like a year. They're in alpha still technically or whatever, even though I think they're currently version 1.5. So I don't know how that all works, but they are available to mess with. It's a good game system, at least in my opinion. Morning from Quebec, how you doing? Good morning from cool Oklahoma, BF Bulldog, how you doing? Blake's Pipes, good morning. Clearwater, Florida, how you doing, Ralph? Cleveland, howdy. Continuing a gunpla I started Saturday afternoon. Nice. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of people talking about the Gundams and the gunpla and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. Good afternoon from Kent, England. How you doing? John Ashley Smith, howdy. Trench Crusade is heroic scale? I don't think it needs to be. I think it can be whatever scale you want within reason. Like, I wouldn't go, oh, it's, 75 millimeter scale, or I wouldn't go 15 millimeter scale. To be fair, you could, as long as everything was that scale. If you want your stuff to be compatible with people that you haven't really played with, you find somebody out of Discord who lives sort of nearby, you're going to get together at a shop and play with this person, this is your first time, I wouldn't show up with 15 millimeter stuff, because I'd be like, because they're going to have probably regular stuff. It is around between 28 to 32. And again, scale is, when you're getting into those numbers that are just a little bit apart, it kind of doesn't matter anymore. The difference between 32 and 28 just means that one guy's kind of short, one person's kind of maybe tall, or whatever. It's fine. Let's see here. Good morning from sunny but chilly Quebec. How you doing, Frank? Good morning from seasonably cool Washington, D.C. How you doing, Fangazi? What's the temperature here? Not quite 40 degrees yet, and it's supposed to be not quite 50 today, so, we did get a little bit of snow, but it's all gone. Didn't even have to shovel it, but it was technically there. Good morning from New York City. Let's see here. How you doing? Morning, Uncle Adam and all my chat friends. How you doing? Good afternoon from Germany. Setting up my 3D printer for some new terrain prints. Nice. I haven't printed anything on my printer in probably a week, I bet. I'm kind of taking a little bit of a break from the printer. Well, I do need to... So, I don't know, 3-4 weeks back, I made that video about that kind of like sci-fi vent thing that I made, that terrain piece out of that like kind of elbow, piece from the hardware store. I have another one of those that's smaller. And so I've designed and printed 2 different pieces for it, which are now glued on, all that kind of stuff. But now I got to do a base. Not nearly as big as the one that was in the video. It's going to be a smaller base. I need to design and print that, and then I can go from there. But the thing is, I probably won't be able to prime the thing until spring again, because I'm going to probably want to use rattle can on it, and it's not really rattle can weather anymore. Sure, you can go outside and spray, but then you need to bring it in the house to dry, because if you leave it outside, like in the garage, to dry when it's really cold like this, you have a tendency to get this. It's the thing I see people online say all the time, like, oh, it's never too cold to rattle can and everything like that. But I'm always like, yeah, but you're bringing those inside, right? Because if you let them sit outside in, 30-degree weather or even colder to dry, then generally what you've sprayed on there now starts to dry in like kind of an orange peel sort of consistency, and it takes forever to dry too. Paint takes longer to dry when it's cold. So if you spray it outside and then bring it in the house to outgas and dry, it kind of ruins the whole point, because now you've still stunk up your house with the outgassing. Like, it's not as bad as if you stood in your living room and spray painted, I'm sure, but still. Anyway, I've considered taking my 3D printer, not the FDM one, but the resin one that I've never used yet, taking it out of the enclosure it's in, and then using that enclosure as a place to dry rattle can stuff. So go outside, even though it's cold, spray, bring it inside, put it inside the enclosure, zip it up, turn on the fan, and let it dry in there, and see if that works. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm having some throat problems today. I apologize. What was I talking about? 3D printer. Oh, yeah. So I got to print that bottom part, but otherwise I've got a lot of stuff that I printed over the summer and stuff, and so I've actually got a lot of things to paint. So I should probably switch to paint mode as opposed to printing more stuff mode, at least for a while. Let's see here. Hello from Quebec City. A rainy and lazy morning. Nice. Spent Saturday moving everything from one storage unit to another. I think my arms are too tired to build or paint anything today. That'll happen. Yeah. I'm generally lucky that I have not yet gotten myself a storage unit. I probably ought to, just to help clean the basement. You know what I mean? Because it's like those games when you were a kid where you had the little thing and it has the little tiles and you have to slide them all around to make a picture. And so you've got one missing tile in the grid of tiles, and you have to know how to slide them so that the picture gets made. I've always sucked at those. I've never been able to finish one of those ever. So the basement's the same thing, right? Like, there's a certain amount of usable space that I can use, but everything else is full of stuff. And so I'd have to move some stuff into the usable space and then, so maybe taking some of it out and then being able to do stuff and then bring it back in and put it on the shelves that I set up and, whatever. I don't know. That's a thought I've had, but I don't know. We'll see. Dropping into the Every Other Sunday show chat to say greetings from a windy West Sussex in UK. Painting some Gasland cars. Nice. Afternoon all. How you doing? Let's see here. Hello, everyone from Germany. How you doing? Beep Beep says VJ Morph. How you doing? What up, guys? So excited to watch you play. Was exciting. Was getting my warband together for a match this week. Nice. Morning from cloudy Milwaukee. How you doing, Jesse? Glad to be home after a week on the road for work. Yeah, it's been cloudy here the entire time, I think. Since you've been gone, it seems like. Let's see here. Oh, my goodness. I'm already far behind. There we go. A storm-swept Isle of Wight. How you doing? Nottingham. Howdy. Did you see the new GW Empire models previewed? Nothing really new. No? I don't think I did. I looked at the releases that they showed off on whatever day it was, Friday or Saturday or whatever. I was like, nothing there really made me go, ooh, oh, that's kind of cool. There's one cool little spaceship. this button there. There was, let's see, this thing is kind of cool. Come on. Right up there. There you go. Sorta. I don't know. Like, it's like, that's maybe kind of cool, but on the other hand, I don't know what I would do with it, and I'm sure they're going to charge $100 for it. So that's sort of cool too. That's got a definite World War I vibe. But yeah, I don't know. So anyway, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, I didn't see anything Empire. I saw a lot of Gits, and I saw a lot of Eldar. Oh wait, hang on. Oh yeah, right there. I guess I skipped over that. I don't really play the square-based games, so it's not really my jam. But that's cool that they're doing some stuff. Are these new? I don't know if those are new or not, or if those are, yeah, returning plastic. So those aren't new. Those aren't new. Returning resin. Boo, boo. Like, who wants to build that in resin? Come on, folks. Good Lord. Returning metal. Oh my Lord. Yeah, that's. I don't understand that entire business model. I got to be honest with you, folks. That whole concept of what they're doing with the old world. I'm glad for people who dig it, but I am astounded by them just going, yeah, we're just going to crank out a bunch of old stuff again. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Let's see here. Good morning from Jonesboro, Illinois, where I'm fighting a cold for the first deer season. Yeah, I am. I got a little bit of allergy, I think, but that's not too bad. Morning from Montreal. How you doing? Morning from rainy Southern California. Some people listen to hype music at the gym, but here I am listening to every other Sunday show. Well, that's cool. You know, congrats for being at the gym. That's pretty good. Going for the Court of Seven-Headed Serpent. They're kind of cool looking stuff. I'll give you that. I'm sticking with personally, I'm sticking with a little bit more, I don't want to say simplistic. Like, it's interesting because, like many games, they have, like, this is the sort of standard type armies, and then for people who want something just really crazy out there, they start to head in that direction too. And I'm glad they give you, like, these are sort of basically kind of good guys mostly, and then they've got you like, I don't know what the heck these guys. These are crazy abominations, and the entire army's done that way, and that's kind of cool too. I don't think Trench Crusade will pop off like Balatro in indie video gaming. I literally just learned about that game yesterday. I mean, I didn't even learn about it. I just heard about it yesterday. I was watching a thing and they were talking about how the Video Game Awards had nominated this game called Balatro, and I was like, but you know, I don't pay as close attention to video games as I used to. But I think we'll have an influx of players in skirmish gaming based off of just aesthetic and fun rules. It could be. Keep in mind, if you stand around playing Trench Crusade for so long, you get trench foot. Ooh, I know you want to maybe, you know, change your socks. Yes, games do not have to beat other companies. It's like the console wars. Buy what you want. Sure. Yep. VJ Morph, nice to see you again. I had a small amount of sleep, so I'm a little delirious. Well, I hope that you get some sleep afterwards. Currently collecting minis for 90s and 2000 era games I never got into expressly to have them fight in mini agnostic games. Nice. Really recently rediscovered Trinity Battleground from White Wolf. Oh yeah, I remember that. Because originally Trinity was called Aeon, and then MTV, I guess, like sued them because of Aeon Flux, and then they had to change it. Like, I've got a friend who has the original Aeon role-playing game, and the book was like in a binder. It was like in a plastic binder almost, kind of. It was a crazy thing. But he's got the original one that has the Aeon logo on it, because then right after that, they went through and printed these Trinity stickers and put them over the logo on the book, and it was crazy. But yeah, they're right. There was also a miniatures game too called Trinity something, Trinity Battleground. Yep, I never played it. Morning from West Virginia. Hello from Finland. How are you folks doing? Good morning from Chile, Tennessee. Is it just me, or does Trench Crusade feel like a grimdark last war? Well, I mean, it's taking place during World War II, or World War I, because it's 1914. So the concept, for those of you who haven't been paying attention, is that in 1099, the Knights Templar went into Jerusalem in the, you know, maybe the first Crusade, second Crusade, I don't know, one of the Crusades. So they go into Jerusalem with one of the Crusades, and in this timeline, in this world, in this alternate reality, and they find some sort of artifact locked away that shouldn't be there, and it causes them to flip sides and start to, and so they're no longer fighting for the forces of good and, the Lord and all that kind of stuff, and they've gone into the other side and they're bad guys. And they kind of open up, I don't know, like a portal to hell or something. There's all kinds of crazy crap going on. And now literally the Crusades are still going on. Now it's 1914. So it's about the time that in our timeline we'd have World War I. This is still the same battle that's been basically going on, the same war. It's been going on for 800 plus years. So in Trench Crusade, it is literal, the forces of heaven versus the forces of hell to some degree, but it's within the lens kind of World War I. So it's that's kind of the vibe, right? Good late afternoon from Austria. Currently working on my SOH Inducti. SOH. I don't know what SOH stands for in this situation. Playing a campaign game feels amazing. Scenarios are fun, and the glorious deeds system is really awesome. Yeah, like I said, the rules are amazing, I think. The rules are written by I'm going to mispronounce it again. Thomas. I think because it looks like Thomas, but there's no H after the T. It's a U, and I'm not sure how to properly pronounce it, and I apologize. And again, Piernan, who wrote Mordheim, and people still play Mordheim to this day. GW hasn't made a Mordheim thing since like 2004 or 2005, and but people still enjoy it and play it. And so yeah, I mean, if someone's going to make those rules really good, I figure it's going to be him. So yeah, that's very cool. Afternoon from a very wet Puckle Church, working on some Moonstone Shades this afternoon. Nice. Missed the first offering of Trench Crusade and Kickstarter. There's hoping I can hit when the Pledge Manager opens up. Pledge Manager, I think, is supposed to open up this week. I swear I heard something about it opening up the week of the it's the 24th now. So I think it's supposed to be sometime this week they're going to be opening up the late Pledge Manager and also the Pledge Manager. So now I don't know if they're going to be different prices, but like I backed the campaign at the $5 level. I was like, I don't know what I want. I know I'm not necessarily really needing the hardcover book. It's fine. Potentially down the road, I'll be like, oh, bummer, I should have done that. But I mean, I still might. But because I did it at the $5 level, it's like you got your foot in the door. So then when the Pledge Manager hits, then you can go through and pick, I want one of these and two of those and five of those or whatever. But I think if you weren't in on the Kickstarter, and then if you have to do the late Pledge Manager, I wonder if the prices will maybe go up just a scotch, or will the prices go up once it's like completely done and all the Kickstarter stuff is all fulfilled and they put it out there for regular, people. Because from what I understand, all this stuff's going to eventually end up, these models that they've done, they're all going to end up on like probably My Mini Factory or some other website, something like that. Probably My Mini Factory, since they are working with Only Games to do the printed versions. So yeah, most likely they'll end up there. So like most Kickstarters, if you back the Kickstarter, you get it cheaper than if you wait until afterwards, kind of situation. But I don't know if they'll make that differentiation when it's Pledge Manager versus late Pledge Manager. But if anything, it'll still probably be cheaper than waiting until whatever. But the trick is that also the game is staunchly also miniature agnostic. So if you decide to use different models than the stuff that they're producing, and again, they're not making plastic models on sprues. They're making STL files, which are predominantly almost all done, I think, for the most part. And I'll show you some images of that in a little bit. But if you don't have a 3D printer, you can also buy the models pre-printed and then sent to you, like, print on demand through a company called Only Games. So, yeah, I've had a lot of people in the comments be like, well, Kickstarters, they never actually ever come out. And I'm like, well, actually, a lot of them do. Some don't, and they make news. But the trick is that this one is, like I said, like, I believe their plan is for the STLs, people who backed just STLs because they're either going to print them themselves or have a friend print them or whatever. I think the STLs are supposed to be sent out to backers before the end of 2024. So, because again, they're basically done. There was a lot of people, not a lot. There were some people I saw that were sad that they weren't making hard plastic models on sprues and all that kind of stuff. but that is incredibly expensive to get set up, the molds and stuff. And then also, it isn't something that takes a little bit of time. It's something that takes a long time. So for them to do that, I can guarantee you wouldn't see those plastics until at least 2026. Like, if everything was done the same, if they did the Kickstarter now and all that kind of stuff and made $3 million, you would not see those models till 2026 easily. So, it's just kind of the way that the world is changing a little bit, I think, as far as 3D printing and things like that. So that being said, if you want to use hard plastic miniatures, there's plenty of companies out there that make stuff that you could kit bash and mess with and, proxy or whatever. So you could also do that too. I actually, like I said, I want to, my first at least faction is going to be the Trench Heretics. No, is that what it is? Yeah, Trench Heretics, isn't it? Well, anyway, whatever they're called. No, Heretic Legion. Heretic Legion. I'm getting Trench Pilgrims and Heretic Legion mixed up. Yes. So Heretic Legion is my first group, and the leader that you're supposed to run, I just don't like the model that much. That's the official one from the actual Kickstarter or whatever. So I actually a viewer on Twitch last week, 2 weeks ago, I don't know, shortly after the video came out, mentioned a different model, and so I was like, and I looked it up, and I was like, yep. And then there's another model that I'm also found. I don't want to say it's a knockoff, but it is. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to replace this model with this other model. Like, this other model that I'm replacing it with is designed to be a different version of the Trench Crusade one. But the reasons that I like this other model I'll show you in a while. But yeah, it's I think it makes a lot of sense to do that. So my good friend Dave is 3D printing those two models for me. I'll get them maybe next week or maybe after Thanksgiving, and then I can start working on those. But otherwise, most of the rest of the models I'm waiting for the ones from from the Kickstarter. But yeah, I'll show you some of that stuff in a bit. Going from Orlando, how you doing? Also lovely to say Tabletop Minions posting on Blue Sky, where mini conversations seem to be far more engaging. Yep. I've been really enjoying Blue Sky. It's been really great. It is. It's just like, it's kind of like really old Twitter, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just like there's conversations about stuff and you talk about things, and it's I don't know. It's predominantly, I'm there, mainly just sticking to the miniature things. But that's the thing that's great too, is because there's no algorithm, it is just constantly like showing you the people that you actually follow, and not, putting a bunch of stuff in there or saying, well, I know you followed that guy, but that guy posted a link in his video or in his tweet, so we're not going to really show it to everybody who follows them because we like to mess with the algorithm. There's just no algorithm, so you can follow the things that you actually want and see the things that those people actually post. At some point, will that maybe get slightly unwieldy? Maybe, but then it's up to you to decide on what you want to do. You can also make your own feeds in Blue Sky, and I made myself a Trench Crusade feed. So, you've got like up at the top in the Blue Sky, whatever you call it, the UI, when you start out on any page, so you've got following, and then you've got discover, which is to look at new things that are, and then there's popular with friends, which is stuff that your friends have liked and things like that. So it's maybe things you'll be into. And then across the top, you can have multiple other feeds. So I've got a Trench Crusade feed. So when I poke on that, there we go. Then it is all just stuff that's got the terms Trench Crusade, in it, or attached to it, or replies to. And so you can learn about all kinds of stuff like that. And you can do the same thing yourself. It's not like a thing that somebody makes and other people follow. You just put in keywords that you want. And they've had that functionality in other apps for a long time to some degree. But this is just really nice to make it as like a feed, as opposed to having to go and look at a certain thing or a special thing to go find it. It's a whole thing. So anyway. I enjoyed Friday's video on your favorite game mechanics. I too prefer games where you buy one book. That's all you need. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that. I'm astounded that people are just like taking it as far as like, oh, you want to play Blood Angels? Okay, well, you got to buy the Space Marine Codex and then the Blood Angels Codex. Because when I first started playing back in 5th edition, if you wanted to play Blood Angels, you bought the Blood Angels Codex. There you go. That's it. You didn't have to buy 2 books. There was not a supplemental codex. It was just a codex. You wanted to play, well, Grey Knights are still kind of their own book. But if you wanted to play Space Wolves, you wanted to play Dark Angels, all that kind of stuff, they were just like, this is the codex. And now it's, well, it'd be better if you bought 2 books, wouldn't it? And you're like, no, it wouldn't. And they're like, well, we think it'd be better. So, yeah. Howdy from Atlanta, Georgia. How you doing? Let's see here. Looking forward to Dragon Meet this coming Saturday at Novotel London. Hope to catch some Minion members there, too. I don't know what Dragon Meet is. That's kind of cool. Sounds neat. Just got around to watching Suggs. Louise, right. Trench Crusade video. I enjoyed the dip into the lore. Feels like a blend of Conflict 47 and Reign in Hell. Conflict 47. Well, because that's World War II. Well, maybe I haven't had the chance to watch the video yet with her. Can you elaborate on Trench Crusade a little more? I feel like I'm missing something. So it started with a guy named Mike Francina, who is an artist who has worked in the video game industry. I don't know that he's ever worked directly for Blizzard / Activision, whatever, or if he's always worked as a contractor. I'm not 100% sure. I got the feeling he was a freelancer, but he's worked heavily for Blizzard mostly, and has worked predominantly on a lot of concept design and things like that for, I guess, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and Diablo 4, at least as I remember. And I may be wrong on there, but I know he's worked on a bunch of Diablos, Diabli. Anyway, so he's done a lot of that, and he's an amazing artist, and he just kind of came up with this concept of this whole idea of the Crusades continuing on all the way through into the 20th century and all that kind of stuff and everything, and this fight between like good and evil and all that kind of stuff. And so he was just creating these really cool pieces of artwork. And then I don't know, frankly, whether he started reaching out to game designers or something like that, or made friends with Thomas, or I don't know how it works, but at some point they decided to start working on this game, and it was it's a skirmish game, and it is designed where you have, I think there's, as it turns out, there's 6 different factions. I said in my video there were 5, but somehow as I was flipping through the book on the PDF reader, I completely missed one of them. I don't know. And there are also some sub factions too, which are just slight modifications. But if you go to trenchcrusade.com, hang on, let me bring it up. Trench Crusade, not the Kickstarter, not the Kickstarter, just the regular one. Thank you. There. And button. There we go. So there's not a lot here necessarily on the website, but there are. So anyway, but this is some of the artwork. Like, this is a giant, like, trench, giant massive guns and all this kind of crazy stuff. And so it's this really crazy over the top kind of artwork and things like that. But if you go to the playtest rules thing up here on the top, there we go. So you've got playtest rules version 1.5, and then there's quick start rules, which are version 1.4.1. And then there's a roster sheet, a lore primer where you can learn all about the world and stuff like that. Mercenary rules for bringing in like these kind of mercenary forces. So you can just like add, there's like a list of different mercenaries that every faction can use, right? So you've got that ability as well. And then there's also campaign rules separately. So all of these PDFs are not required for the game, certainly. The playtest rules are basically the main one. Now, the trick is that they have said publicly, this is never going to be a game that you can't get for free. This is never going to be a game that you can't. It's a kind of a double negative there. But yes, the idea is that they will always have the downloadable rules here for free. Now, they're going to sell a book for people who like books. We do the same thing, Vince and I, but we're also not trying to sell you miniatures, so we charge for our PDF, or we also charge it for the book. And if you buy the actual physical book, you get the PDF for free. These guys are giving away the PDF for free because they want you to really, basically buy the models. That's kind of the big thing. Same type of deal with one-page rules. They'll give you, free access to the rules. If you want the slightly fancier version of the rules, it's like $5. But really, they want to be able to sell you a bunch of 3D printed miniatures and things like that, or the STLs for them, that kind of thing. I've actually chatted with Gaetano, who's one of the guys who runs. He's the main guy who started One Page Rules, and he says the vast majority of their money comes from selling the STLs as opposed to selling the rules, which makes sense. Anyway, so why is that so small? Weird. So anyway, this is the PDF. And so it was this Mike Francina who started off, created by right there. And then you've got Thomas Piernan, and then you've got artwork by Mike Francina and Des Hanley, who I don't know. James Sheriff is doing the layout, and then there's additional editing by Eleanor Marie. And it's just really interesting, kind of like, again, you've got this like Crusades kind of vibe going on, but they have machine guns and stuff because it's, at this point, World War I days. But it's a very interesting rules system, and it's not difficult. But again, it's also skirmish, so that's a benefit. I don't know if this comes across here or not, but this is like a really super cool piece of artwork. Like, I don't even know exactly what this is going on. I think these are trench pilgrims, but then there's this giant, like walking along and all these giant floating. It's crazy looking stuff. And they have really good artwork for, okay, so Heretic Legion. This is where I'm starting here. That's the group that I want to do. So you've got your heretic priest. You got to have a heretic priest. That's the leader. So you got to have at least one leader in your thing, and that's the only one they have. So you have to have. That's why it says 1 next to it. Over here it says heretic death commando. So you can go with none in your group, or you can go with 1. So you got that. And then you head into these guys who are this is the heretic chorister. Again, you can have none or 1. And then you go into the heretic troopers, which you can have as many as you want, basically. That's why there's no number next to it. Anointed heavy infantry, 0 to 5. Warwolf assault beast, which is pretty awesome. You can go 0 to 1 with those. Artillery witches, again, you can only have 1, unless you have a bigger force. If you go over 1,000, they call them ducats, which are basically like gold pieces or points or whatever. But if you go over 1,000 points in your list, then you can have 2 artillery witches. But the artillery witches are like these artificial creatures that like, I don't know if they're like robots or if they're just like whatever they are, but what they do is they're on the battlefield and they just open a small portal to like the munitions factories in hell, and then a bomb comes out, and then they just chuck it out, and they can just have infinite amount of bombs. They just keep chucking them because they're artillery witches, which is kind of awesome. Wretched is they're kind of like everybody has access to wretcheds, I think. Maybe, I'm not sure exactly, but yeah. But the artwork is just astounding, and it's cool. Then there's the Trench Pilgrims, who are kind of good guys. This is the other group that I'm also kind of interested in. There, you got to have a War Prophet. You have 0 to 1 Castigators, 0 to 1 Communicant. And like these creatures are like, yeah, this guy's like, these are technically the forces of heaven. These are people who are behind the good guys in the situation. They're not hell. But still, like, that guy's crazy looking. There's a lot of interesting things going on there that make big crazy creatures and things like that. Trench Pilgrims, ecclesiastic prisoners. You got the stigmatic nuns, which are like healing and stuff like that out there. You got the anchorite shrine. That's in the thumbnail. That's where the thumbnail comes from. It's just this giant. It's almost like a dreadnought, but it's it's a lot of religious stuff going on here, obviously, which is kind of the thing. That guy's got some trouble. I think that there should definitely be some Bactine, maybe some Neosporin over there. That's like a whole missing part of the middle. And then you go into the Iron Sultanate. They're kind of like Middle East kind of stuff. And then there's also, I'll scroll past them. I don't want to sit on these all and go through everybody. After that, then there's the Principality of New Antioch, which I feel is slightly kind of Britishy, maybe slightly. Like that guy kind of looks British, right? That looks like a World War I British guy, sort of. Anyway, and then they get the cool combat medic and all that kind of stuff. And then after those guys, then you have the Cult of the Black Grail, which, if you like Nurgle, you're probably into the Cult of the Black Grail. You have to have a Lord of Tumors. Well, actually, you don't. You have 0 to 1. So I think you get different options. Plague Knight, Corpse Guard, like this stuff looks Nurgle-y to me. There's flies on them, all that kind of jazz. That's just a big white giant fly with a machine gun. Why not? And then what's the last one? The Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. At this point, we've gone straight up like crazy demons that have come from hell that you're going to have to fight with machine guns, and not a lot of artwork. Well, that's a cool piece of artwork. Like, so yeah, it's interesting. And as far as the actual models, they've got, like, the thing is that in many times they'll have like, here's a bunch of concept art and, you know, blah 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 and whatever, and, you know, it's gonna be great. And then after the Kickstarter, we'll start making the models. These models are all done. So like, here's the Heretic Legion. You got your Heretic Priest, your Sin Eater, your Warwolf, your Chorister, your Anointed, your Death Commando, your Artillery Witch, and your Heretic Troopers. That's the entirety of the Heretic Legion models at this point. And they have this for New Antioch. They have it for Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. They've got it for the Sultanate. They've got it for the Trench Pilgrims. Trench Pilgrims are the other group that I'm interested in. They have the pointy hats. One does love a good pointy hat. Pointy hood? No. Pointy hat? Yes. Black Grail. This is, again, kind of the Nurgle type folks. And then this is just a bunch of other stuff. Like, these are the different levels they had, all that jazz. So my point is, what was my point? My point is that you can kind of do whatever you want with it, because again, they've got all this stuff available to you. They're like, look, there's going to be all these models. If you want to do that stuff, that's great. But they're also saying definitely, yes, the books will always be free. The rules, PDFs will always be free. And also you can always, you know, miniature agnostic yourself into whatever kind of models that you want to use. If they ever actually have official events, if you show up with non-official models, they'll not tell you to hit the bricks. They're like, yeah, that's cool, man. Like, that's, you know, that's what we want. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like I said, when I made the video a couple weeks ago, I was like, I have not had any contact with any of the people from the organization, and so it's not like sponsored or anything like that. Since then, I am now Facebook friends with Thomas Piernan, so there's that, and we chatted a little bit, but you know, that's basically about the extent of it. I backed the Kickstarter. You can see websites. You can see right over here. It says your selection, Observer, $5. Like, so that's what I did. I just think it's a really cool concept, and I'm very impressed by not only the level of work that they've done for people who basically have day jobs, like both, you know, like Thomas works for, I think, Sony, like video games, does a lot of video game stuff out of like Helsinki or someplace, you know, and my assumption is that Mike is probably still doing freelance or whatever artwork for, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what Mike's doing these days. I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but and I'm not Facebook friends with him, but yeah. It does not seem like they are like sitting on a big pile of money when they did this. From what I have seen on the Facebook group, Thomas has mentioned a couple of times that they have not spent any marketing money, but yet still we're looking at 3.3 million in Kickstarter. I think that's kind of impressive. So yeah, that's what's kind of intrigued me. The artwork's intriguing. The concept's intriguing. I started reading the rules. I'm like, I like these rules. These are interesting. It's skirmish based, which of course is my jam. And so, yeah, there you go. I hope that helped out Felix. That was kind of a long one. Blue Nine, how you doing? Good morning from chilly Columbus. Nice. My copy of Space Station Zero arrived this past week, and I'm going to give it a go today. Nice. Do you have any additional materials for it in the roadmap? So not this issue of Snarl, which just came out like last week. This is our little our zine that we put out in the fall now. We've put out two of them. There's the 2024 one, and then there's the 2023 one, which I don't have a copy of upstairs. It's downstairs. The 2023 edition, which is also $8, it's just $8, it's a downloadable, has some new like equipment for Space Station Zero. This one doesn't. This one has new equipment for Majestic 13. It has some new undead minions for Death Wizards, which was our game that came out back in spring. And then there's also some stuff in here for Rain and Hell. But so far, we haven't really released anything else, or have, like, we don't really do expansions generally. We did do technically one expansion for Rain and Hell originally, because when we launched Rain and Hell, we did not put solo or co-op play into it, even though it was during the pandemic. And then people were like, wouldn't it be great if we could play this by ourselves since we can't go anywhere? And we were like, oh yeah. So we made like a little expansion, which we put up as pay what you want on My Mini Factory, or not My Mini Factory, sorry, Wargame Vault. But in general, we don't really do expansions per se. We'll do some little add-ons in Snarl. And then Snarl also, besides a few add-ons, 3 different add-ons in here, there's also a game called The Great Goblin Argle Bargle, which is a fun little micro game where you build a big force of goblins and you fight other goblins, and then there's things that happen. Morning from Sioux Falls. So excited for Trench Crusade. Lots of Dante's Inferno vibes. Oh, sure. Yeah. My printers are on a break. I have too much to paint already. Nothing I really feel like printing at the moment. I'm always interested to print stuff like terrain and things like that with my FDM. But yeah, I currently have enough stuff to actually paint that I should probably be doing that instead. Morning from Ohio. What did I say? Idaho, not Ohio. That's a different thing altogether. Overcast, chilly. Good day to stay in and paint. Also true. Creator Mike Franchino has expressed wanting to add more factions, but is hesitant to add big things like vehicles and such. So an interview with him, and the excitement in his voice is infectious. I don't want there to be vehicles. You know what I mean? Like, I honestly just think it'd be way cooler. Now, the thing that's interesting to me, sort of, is they're like, you can play it on a 3x3 or you can play it on a 4x4, but they always suggest 4x4, which is interesting when you're playing a skirmish game, because that seems like a really big space for a skirmish game. So I want to try it on 3x3 and see how it works out. Now, if they decide to start adding tanks and stuff like that, then you're going to need to go bigger. But I hope that they don't, honestly, because I'm just not, I don't know. I can't, it was astounding to me the amount of people when the first version of Kill Team came out, like the, official Kill Team, like standalone Kill Team, the 2018 version, how many people were like, well, when can I bring in a Land Raider? And I'm like, it's a skirmish game. We don't, you know what I mean? Like that's not a thing. Let's keep it kind of small scale. I think it's the best way to go, honestly. Boop, 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 boop. I think I yammered on for a long time to go. I think it's pronounced Thomas. That would make more sense. Yeah, Thomas. Okay. I'm going to stick with that. Boop, 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 boop. Let's see here. Let's keep it small scale. Greetings from Snowden, Saskatchewan. Oh my goodness, snowed in. That's no good. Also want to say thanks, Adam, for giving me the push to start 3D modeling a bit. Always seemed daunting, but seeing you do it gave me confidence to try it out, starting with board game organizers. Cool. Yeah. Like I said, I'm the next piece, that other elbow kind of vent thing, I need to model a base for it. So I might try to do that this week. I have to get a video done earlier than usual. It'll still go live at the normal time on Friday, but I have to get it done earlier because of Thanksgiving. But then, yeah, I don't know, maybe Thanksgiving or maybe on Saturday. There'll be a lot of family stuff going on this week, so that'll happen. Let's see here. Can one buy Trench Crusade minis or just print? So they will be, like, currently, if you look at the Kickstarter, there's 2 prices for all the miniatures. There's the STL price, and then there's the printed price. So they are working with a partner in this situation, a company called Only Games. It's based out of the UK. So Only Games is a company that prints 3D models, and they are owned by, or a subsidiary of, I don't know the legal ramifications, but they are attached in some fashion to My Mini Factory. So if you decide, hey, I would like to buy these miniatures and I don't have a printer or a friend with a printer and know anybody with a printer, then you can, and then they will print them on demand, basically, and ship them to you. Now, I've worked with I've worked with Only Games before. I have not like, have I done any sponsored stuff with them? I think I did something with One Page Rules one time, but it was more about the expansion. I don't remember exactly, but I have bought things from them, like, directly. I have paid my own money. It was actually about a year ago because it was during Black Friday. They have a big Black Friday sale. So I got a bunch of different things printed, mostly models from Knucklebones Miniatures, Knucklebones is the company that printed, or that designed the miniatures, the 6 different necromancers that we released with them for Death Wizards. Anyway, I got a bunch of stuff printed from them, and I had relatively good luck. I mean, it didn't show up like next week. It was, because it was during a big sale, so it took them a while to get it. I got it like in about a month, maybe a little bit less, maybe 3 weeks. But everything was decent. I had a couple of bendy swords, but those, you just take yourself a mug of either you take your electric kettle and you fill it full of hot water, or you microwave it if you don't have an electric kettle, the water, and get it real hot, and then you dunk the model in there. Don't dunk your fingers because you'll burn yourself, so that the sword starts to get kind of bendy, and then you just put it, straighten it out to and then you have another mug of cold water, and then you dunk it into there, and then it, hardens everything back up again. And then that works fine. So I've done that, and it's been fine. I've seen some people complaining about only games, either because they're like, well, then it's going to be really expensive to get to my country, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's not like a great, like, hopefully someday somebody will make like a network of printing like companies that are all under one thing, so you can go, I would like to get this printed, please, and then they will print it closest to you and ship it to you. You don't have to pay as much for shipping, and there's not like customs and blah blah blah. But for right now, that hasn't really happened much. Wargame Vault / Drive-Thru RPG, etc. Like, when we work with them for printing our books, like Death Wizards, they have currently 2 facilities, one in the US and one in the UK. So if you buy it in the UK, it'll get printed probably not too far from you, whereas if you buy it in the US, it'll get printed there. And every other region, they either figure out which one they're going to do it in that's going to be cheapest. They're also, in theory, making an Australian place, but I think the Australian place is not 100% hooked up to the website yet, but that'll be also great too for people who live on that side of the planet, and it'll be cool. But as of right now, there's nobody really that I know of that's like a big 3D printing networked across the globe kind of place. So they end up going with Only Games, who are attached to My Mini Factory, and My Mini Factory is pretty big in the industry. So that's the way it's going to work. So if you do want printed ones and don't know anybody with a printer, then you can. But again, the STLs will probably get sent out to people who backed STLs by, like I said, from what I understand, by the end of the year. But the printed stuff, because of there being so many people who've ordered, it will probably be a while before all that stuff gets shipped out. They are saying on the website, estimated delivery. They've got estimated delivery as everything is like June of 2025. So that also includes the printed book. I think the printed book's going to take some time because, it's got to get printed. That's the way it works. But yeah. If Trench Crusade is going to be resin, do you plan on doing any conversions, or will you be playing the minis as is? I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to be having my friend Dave print them for me, but I've already come across 2 that I want to use that are different than the ones that they sell here. So here's one of them. So this is something called Curse of the Wretched Order. And it's called a Fallen Crusader. And I just like the look of this guy in comparison. If I go over here and scroll way back up to this guy. See, like, this is the artwork for the Heretic Priest. And I'm like, that guy's kind of cool. But the print that they're doing for the Heretic Priest, the sculpt they've got, I don't think it just doesn't look like the art. Like, first of all, he's got giant bones sticking out of his back, it looks like, or there's something weird going on. He's not as tall as Skinny, and it just doesn't, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's just not great. So this guy looks a lot cooler, and he comes in multiple poses. He's got his thing up, he's got his thing like that, he's got his thing like that. I think this is the one that I'm having Dave print for me. So that'll be my Heretic Priest. And then the other guy who's called the Chorister, he's basically like a buff. Like, he goes out there and he does stuff that makes, I think, it helps other, guys on your team. It gives them buffs and stuff like that. And he's got his head off, like you do. You tear your head off and then you sing through your, disembodied head. And he's holding it out in front of him. You can kind of see it there. And then, like, I don't know if it's just the blood or whatever, but like stuff is coming out of his neck stump and it's making these crazy weird patterns and shapes and stuff like that. And looking at that model, even as small as it is there, I'm like, yeah, those are going to break right off. Like 3D printer resin, that's going to break right off. Unless you go heavy in the, there's an additive you can pour into your resin called Tenacious, I believe, which makes it a lot more robust. Speaking of which, somewhere on this Trench Crusade, there is they take one of the Trench Crusade models, one of the taller, spindly guys, and they're at the Only Games headquarters, and they throw him down the stairs, and he doesn't break because the Only Games stuff, they add an additive to it to make them more robust. So nonetheless, I was looking at this Chorister model, and I'm like, that stuff's going to break off. And I found somebody on my mini factory who's also making a Chorister model. Now, number one, he's holding his head not like out like that. He's holding it closer to the body, which is going to help with less bustage. And then the goop that's coming out of the neck or whatever that's making weird shapes looks thicker. Like it looks like it's less skinny. So that'll be something as well. So I bought that one as well. And my friend Dave is going to print me that. But the majority of the rest of these models, I'm on board with. The Warwolf is awesome looking. The Death Commando is awesome looking. The Artillery Witch, the Troopers, all that jazz. So I'm just swapping out 2 models with different ones. But you could also just completely kit bash out of plastic stuff. I've seen plenty of people modifying Death Guard, like shaving, making them look really, I've been seeing lots of people use all kinds of stuff. Someone asked earlier about trench ghosts. And I've been seeing people making like night haunts, like with machine guns and stuff like that. Another thing that's very interesting, if you're thinking about doing a lot of kit bashing, is that one of the things that they will be selling, it's way down here. See, here's a bunch of the prices for the different models. They've got the digital and the physical price. Like the Heretic Priest, he's a $6 model and he's $13 printed. Now, if he was a GW model as a leader, they'd make him $35 to $45. Anyway, if you scroll way down, they have this stuff. So they have church accessories. So you have all these extra like crosses and icons and this and that to like help with your kit bashing if you want to go down that road. And then they also have the church weapons. So there's bolt action rifles and machine guns and flamethrowers and shields and all of that jazz. And then there's also the hell accessories. So again, a bunch of different crazy, relics and icons and things like that. And then there's also Sultanate, and I think that's just the 3. It's the Sultanate, the Hell, and the Church. And so, I'm definitely going to be getting probably both the Church and the Hell. I don't know, something just doesn't speak to me about the Sultanate stuff, but I'll be getting these. And these are like, $6, $8, $8. Yeah. So that'll also help if I do want to do some kit bashing down the road, because I can be like, well, at least I have the right guns. You're not having like a guy, he's carrying like a 40K bolter and it doesn't look like World War I stuff, but this stuff like does. So yeah, I think that's cool too that they're doing that. Let's see here. Hungover, hello from Liverpool. How you doing? Good morning from Middle Tennessee. Another D&D day for me. Nice. Get one of them pods you put in your driveway. I mean, I suppose, yeah. I need to just find a 2-bedroom apartment. I have no more room over my bedroom for more hobby stuff. I have looked into getting a Murphy bed. Ooh, that's kind of cool. 3D printers on break until I can work out how to tune it. Gotcha. Hello from Des Moines. Spent a lot. I know it's Des Moines. It's not Des Moines. But spent a lot of yesterday looking for a current best reasonably priced 3D resin printer, kind of landing on the Saturn IV. I mean, probably now is the time to buy because I'm sure there's a lot of Black Friday deals going on, Checking in from Charleston, South Carolina, preparing for Fantasy Rank and Flank. Nice. Motor Breath Jazz, how you doing? Cool, foggy mid-Michigan. It's cool, but we haven't had any fog. Lexington, Kentucky, starting a squad for Arsenal. Oh, yeah, from Blaster Magazine. Yeah, that's very cool. With the big robot and then the regular 28mm guys. I think that's... I don't have a copy yet, but I keep meaning to buy it, but I haven't bought it yet. But I learned about it from... I think it was at Adepticon they told me about it. Let's see here. Southeast Alaska. Oh my goodness. Just ordering the new expansion for Blackout. Looks awesome. Yeah, I've heard about it, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But I heard about it. Just watched Goober's video on different mini making methods. I already knew most of it, but great that all the info is out there. Yeah, he's really good at that stuff. Morning from Pittsburgh. How you doing, Lifeblader? Yesterday was my birthday. Got new MDF terrain and some primer. Nice. Well, happy birthday. They really don't understand the hobby, especially because I turned 46. I don't think there's a problem with that. You don't like Krieg. They're okay. They're fine. I guess this is in relation back to the stuff that came out from GW. They're fine. I don't know. I don't see well, I'm never going to run an army of anything really, but I have some of the original Krieg, not the original Krieg, but the Krieg that came out with Kill Team 2021 or whatever. I've got some of those. Those guys are kind of cool models, but otherwise, I'm not. I don't see, the only thing I saw that I might be interested in is they came out with some. I'm definitely not here for guys on horses or something that are like they look like horses, but they have talons. So I don't know. That's alien horses, I guess, which is fine. Whatever. The only dudes that I'm even vaguely interested in are these command guys. Like this guy's pretty cool with the cool hat. No, those don't do much for me. This guy with the hat, that guy's cool. Whatever. But if I could just get like that guy right there with the hat and the plasma pistol, and then this guy over here with the chainsword and the bolt rifle or bolt pistol, and skip the rest of them, that'd be great. But I'm sure they're all sold in one box or whatever. But I suppose I could throw the rest of them on eBay or something if I wanted to. But yeah, that was the only thing that really kind of did much for me as far as that was concerned. Trench Crusade reminds me a little of Last War. I'm here for it. I mean, you know, they're both alternate history, World War I, so that makes some sense. I think the key to rearranging the space you mentioned is to first remove everything and anything you don't need or want, then condense any storage boxes you can, and play the shifting tile puzzle. I don't know where I would put it all. That's the problem. As an Eldar fan, they just dumped the entire line right in my lap. Plus, I can't use most of those minis in Kill Team. They did dump a lot of Eldar, and so I hope that makes the Eldar folks, because the Eldar folks have been sitting on some pretty old models for a pretty long time. So I hope that makes them happy. Like that, no shade. I'm like, I really do hope that this is helpful. I can't tell because I don't really know much about Eldar, but I'm like, well, there's a lot of Eldar, so I hope that helps. Nothing new except an entire Krieg army, long overdue, aspect warriors and plastic, and a whack of other stuff. Yeah, but it's not stuff that I'm, like I said, that I really, it's not for me. Terrence, how you doing? Good time of day? Anything exciting for you out of the announcement? Like I said, not a ton. Good news from Vienna. What do you think is next for Trench Crusade after the $3 million Kickstarter? I don't know. I mean, like, I get the feeling that they definitely want this to be like, okay, so Vince and I are weird in that we produced Rain and Hell, and then we then did Space Weirdos the next, or sorry, not Space Station Zero the next year, and then the year after that we did Majestic 13, and the year after that we did Death Wizards. Most people, I think, expected that after we came up with Rain and Hell, that was going to be our game. And we were going to put that out, and then we're going to put out like expansions, and then like a new thing, and then some more stuff for Rain and Hell, and make it like an ecosystem, make it like a lifestyle. And we're not interested in doing that. Now, these guys, I'm sure, are, not because they're wrong, but because they're also leaning heavily into the models. Like, if they were just coming out with the rules and we're like, hey, Kitbash, a bunch of cool stuff, knock yourself out, here's a booklet you can buy full of rules, or a PDF you can buy, but they're putting the rules out for free, which is smart, because they want you to buy the models. That's kind of the trick. But again, they're not saying you have to. They're just saying, like, if you have a bunch of models that you put out, there are plenty of folks out there right now who are doing just fine producing models. Look at Titan Forge, look at Archvillain Games, look at Bastarium. There's plenty of people out there who are just putting out models because the people are like, those are awesome and I can use them in this game, in this game, in this game, or just paint them for fun or whatever. But you get to a point with some of those folks, especially look at again, Titan Forge. Like Titan Forge got to a point where they're like, we better start making games. And so they've been making games. I think most recent one I heard about Titan Forge was that they got the license to make games based off of what the heck is that game? It's the spaceship game. It's basically a big spreadsheet. EVE Online. So, if your STL, Patreon, whatever company gets so big, eventually you'd be like, well, I should probably make some games so that people have even more reason to buy these models. And I get it. So these guys are making this game and they're putting it out there and they are, selling the models. If they weren't selling models, I would expect that after they put this game out, they might start doing a different game. But they want to probably stick with this. So the question then becomes, what is the next thing? Is it more models? Is it expansions? Honestly, I don't know. Like, if it were me, I don't think I would work as fast as Vince and I are working. I wouldn't be like, okay, next year we're coming up with another thing. Next year we're coming up with another thing. I honestly think I would just like put out the game, put out all the models, and then just let it kind of go for like a year and see where it goes, and then sit down and go, okay, we've seen where the community has started to kind of drive it a little bit, and let's kind of like help that along, or let's start working in that direction. Because yeah, I don't know what the next deal would be. This is part of the reason also why Vince and I don't just make one game, we make lots of games, is because also for two reasons. Number one, sometimes people just don't like your game. You know what I mean? Like there have been plenty of people I've seen in comments, even on my video from a couple weeks ago, people are like, I don't want to play this game because I don't like the heaven and hell thing, or I think that this is disgusting, or I think that this is whatever, and all that kind of stuff. And that's, it's your opinion, man. So those people are not going to play that game. And when we launched Reign in Hell, we had people reach out and go, I just don't like the concept of demons. And so I really would love to help you guys out and buy your thing and back you, because it's cool that you're making games now. But it's, or I remember a guy who was like, the game is completely hand-to-hand. There's no range attacks, and I just don't like playing games like that. We're like, okay, that's cool. That's the way it works. And then I think we even told that guy, we're like, wait till the next game, because we already knew we were doing Space Station Zero. And so, some people don't like fantasy, some people don't like sci-fi, whatever. So, it makes sense to kind of to take that into consideration as far as that's concerned, at least in my mind. But yeah, I honestly don't know what they're going to do. That's a good question. Excited to have good GW kits from Mordheim Mercs and Witch Hunters again. Cool. Good morning from Kenosha. Why do you think there's so many wargaming YouTubers in the upper Midwest? I think there's just a lot of gamers tabletop gamers in the Midwest, and it's because of the winters. I really do think it's because there's a lot of times in the year where you're just like, well, I'm not going outside, so I don't know. And so yeah, I think that's why you get like, because I can think of, so there's me, there's Sam, there's Ninjon, there's Miniac, there's Eons of Battle, there's Vince is in Ohio. But you also get it sort of, you get like Whittle Goblin and Goobertown Hobbies. They're both like in Maine, I think. So that's again an area where it gets kind of cold during the winter and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's part of it. Dungeons and Dragons started in Wisconsin. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think the Midwest has got a lot of tabletop gaming going on because of it's an indoor thing you can do when it sucks to be outside. I'm not much into this trench warfare game. Well, and then you don't have to be. The interesting thing I think is also, I've seen a lot of people building boards and stuff like that with trenches, but I'm looking at the instructions or the rules, and there's nothing that are like inherently like trench related rules. So I'm like, granted it's called Trench Crusade, and I get that, but I'm just wondering if you have to build it. I don't think you have to. Obviously, you don't have to do anything you don't want to. There were parts of World War I that didn't happen in trenches. There was a lot of trench warfare, but just parts that aren't trenchy. In the Old World trailer, they show the new Empire general on foot and general on horse, but make no mention of them in the trailer on the article. Weird. Just picked up the Warp Miniatures Goblin STLs for Argle Bargle in the My Mini Factory Black Friday sale, and now I'm eyeing their Fishmen and Gnomes. Ooh, they've got Fishmen? I didn't know about Fishmen. I like Fishmen. We should make a Fishman game one of these days. And that's kind of a bit harder to find models for, but I think it'd be fun. Death Wizards is much more fun and cool. That's in concept. I appreciate that. New 2-player starter from War Cradle, Armored Clash, kind of has my attention. I know who a War Cradle is, but I haven't heard of Armored Clash. I'll take a look at that. I think GW should have tested the STL sale and home 3D printing with Old World. Now Mantic are eating their lunch with the Vault and Kings of War. Yeah, I just don't know if they're ever going to do 3D printing. I don't know, man. Eventually, probably, maybe. Well, I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. Like, there's a part of me that thinks that they may just decide to stop making models before they decide to go 3D printing. Like if it turns out that this alleged eventual Amazon Henry Cavill whatever TV show actually ever happens. Let's say they make a TV show. It It's wildly popular. They start making movies. It's Marvel Cinematic Universe style for like a decade, crazy Warhammer movies. Everybody's into Warhammer. It's massive and all that kind of stuff. I could completely see them deciding, you know what, we're making more money on this than we are on models. Let's dial back on the models. I could see it happening. I had a conversation with Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games back in May when I went and visited. I was in Canada, and so I stopped by his place, and we did a video there. And we talked about the fact that at some point they could just decide to just be an IP company, just intellectual property. Could happen. There's a possibility that they do that before they do 3D printing, in my mind. That's maybe the cynic in me, but there it is. Really dig the plus and minus dice mechanic in Trench Crusade. Yeah, I agree. There, Nevin. I think it's very cool too. Going from Austin, working on 28mm Zulu Warriors. Cool. Can't wait for the Church of Metamorphosis and the Path of the Beast for the more out there warbands. Each of the factions also, I think I don't know if it's every one of them, but many of the factions also have like these sort of like sub armies that you can do. One of them being the Trench Ghosts, which I think is kind of interesting too. What are your favorite factions so far? Trench Pilgrims and Heretic Legions. Those Heretic Legions is where I'm starting. I'll be working on my Ember Guard warbands today. I'm not really interested in Trench Crusade, but I love the show. Well, I appreciate that. We'll talk about whatever. I've just been kind of talking about it. Like I always try to have a subject to some degree for the thumbnail, but we can talk about whatever, whenever. Currently eBay listing and selling 90% of all my models. AdMax Space Marines. Have you noticed a drop in interest, therefore the selling price? And therefore the selling price for well-painted models? I think a lot of people don't want painted models because they want their models. Well, I think there's a small faction of people who want to buy painted models so they don't have to paint their models. But there's also, I think, a bigger faction of people who are like, I want to paint my own models so they all match, or I want to paint my own models so that they look like I painted them. And they may not even ever do it. You know what I mean? Like there's probably plenty of people out there who went onto eBay, bought unpainted stuff because they're like, well, I'm not going to buy painted stuff. I want to paint it and I'm going to do it and do it right. And then they still never do it anyway. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there who are sitting on a lot of unpainted plastic or resin or metal or whatever. And it is what it is. I guess I haven't been paying attention to prices on eBay, but I think it's always been the case that people are less impressed by painted models than you would think. You know what I mean? Even if they're well painted or whatever. Like Sam used to put up, like back in the day, this is 6-7 years ago, maybe more, like when a new codex would come out and there'd be like some sort of new, like, oh, you have to use this model, right? Like think of the Smash Captain, right? There was the old Smash Captain that was like the new hotness, and I think it was maybe Blood Angels or whatever, I don't know. And so it was like a Blood Angels Captain with a jump pack and a hammer or whatever, blah, blah. So he'd be like, okay, that's the new hotness. And then he would paint a bunch of those just on spec and then put them up on eBay with the idea of, and this is before he was as well known as he is now, but he would put them up on eBay and be like, well, look, here's a Smash Captain, like, pro painted and the whole deal. And a lot of people, make jokes about pro painted in, this has gotten a little darker than I would have thought. Lighten you up a touch. There we go. But people make a lot of jokes about pro painted and stuff like that in, eBay in general. But yeah, like sometimes he would sell a model for a couple $100 because two guys would get into like a fight over it, like, oh, I own, and then back and forth and back and forth. But a lot of times, and this is Sam Lenz, and again, he wasn't as well known at that time, but he still created amazing stuff, and people would be like, I don't know if I want to spend more than $70 on that model. And you're like, this is a $35 model off the get to start with, right? Or at that time they were probably 28, but still, yeah, it is weird. I don't know what that is. Have the Aeon book. Friend has battle droids. Nice. I do like the look of Trench Crusade in the alternate history timeline as a big hook. Sure. Is it a big green swirling cylinder of liquid Satan that they find? I actually don't know what they find. I'll be honest, I didn't read through the rules, the lore. I've read through the rules. I haven't read through the lore file that they have on there. you guys know, I'm not a lore guy. So I'm like, this is interesting. I like this. I like this as a jumping off point into doing whatever I want. but I'm not going to be like, oh well, actually it says this, and not my jam. I could decide that yes, they did find a big green one, or maybe it was blue. Blue doesn't make sense. Red. Just hanging out a bit before lunch. Nice. Thanksgiving was 1.5 months ago here. Yes, that's true. We're getting it done Thursday. Plan this week is for Pledge Manager. That's what I've heard. I'm assuming once they announce all armies for Old World Surprise New Edition. You could be right. Could be right. Really enjoying the historical and religious rabbit hole this game is taking me down. Seems like the community is all about making unique headcanon for our warbands. Sure, makes sense. Where to get the miniatures? So the Kickstarter just ended like a week and a half ago. They will be starting the Pledge Manager for if you didn't make it to the Kickstarter, you can still get in. That'll happen, I think, this week. So just keep an eye on the Trench Crusade Kickstarter page. They'll open up the Pledge Manager you can get in. But it's also a miniature agnostic game, so you can use whatever types of miniatures you want to make your figures. So you got that too. I just don't have the money for all these cool games. The trick is to try to, not only the money, but also the time. That's the other thing too. So there's a lot of games where I'm like, oh man. And then I'm just like, I gotta pick a few, you know what I mean? I think the minis are either Kitbashes or STLs for 3D printing. Yep. I'll only end up on the Trench Crusade train if I can go fully digital, rulebook and STLs. Yeah, I mean, you can. Like I said, the rulebook will be free then. And then, because you just download the rules from their website currently, and then you just buy the STLs, and boom, there you go. Wargame adjacent. Why is the DC Heroes RPG on Kickstarter? Big companies should do print on demand. Yes, they should. You're not wrong. People look at Kickstarter like, okay, this made sense. These guys using Kickstarter made sense. They were, for all rights, a small company. It was like, I don't know, less than half a dozen people working on this project. I mean, minus the sculptors. They basically, I think, contracted a lot of different sculptors to do a lot of the different sculpts. But the rest of the stuff, layout, art, design, yada yada, it's a small group that are listed on the front of that in the beginning part of that book, the rules document. So being a small company, this is what Kickstarter was built for. DC Comics or whoever is making DC Heroes the RPG, I'm sure it's not DC Comics. I don't know who's making it, but that's not the type of thing that should be on Kickstarter. But Cool Mini or Not has used Kickstarter repeatedly. Lots of big companies have used Kickstarter because then they're basically getting paid up front and they don't have to take as much risk. I'm not a fan of it, but then again, I also don't back that kind of stuff generally either. So small little companies who are doing this so that they can do the thing that they need to do and raise the money that they need to do, great. I'll take a look at those. I don't do as many Kickstarters as I used to, for sure. But anytime I see a company like Cool Mini or Not or whatever being like, oh, we're putting this out in a Kickstarter, I'm just like, cut it out. I mean, thankfully, it seems like Mantic stopped. Like, they were doing everything Kickstarter for a while as well. And now they've basically just been like, yeah, we're just going to put out a new edition of Kings of War. We don't need to Kickstart it. You know what I mean? And that's good. So I appreciate that. Is Trench Crusade Skirmish or Army? Skirmish. Love the fact that all about being model agnostic. I think it's smart. You know what I mean? So how long does it usually take to get orders from Only Games? Did a couple orders about a month ago and still waiting on them. When is shipping, at least theoretically? It's not quick. I'm not going to lie. It's not like Amazon where you order something, you get it in 2 days. It takes some time. So it's something you got to take into consideration. And I think, like I said, right now, at least with Black Friday, when I ordered some stuff from them Black Friday last year, when they were still a smaller company even yet, it still took like a month. It's not particularly quick. Morning from Maine. How you doing? I think the digital files will be available for pledges soon after the manager, the physical ones next summer. Yeah, from what I understand, the physical models, they will start producing probably in January, but it'll be kind of, I don't know if it'll be first come, first serve, or if they're going to ship to different countries or whatever, but they're going to be, because it's not a situation like With plastic models, there's a bunch of money that is spent, and time as well, that is spent making the molds. And then once it's the molds, you put those molds in the machine and you fill the machine full of liquid plastic or whatever. You push a button and it cranks out a bunch of stuff very quickly. With these, because they're 3D printed, you know, you make them, you take them out, you ship them to people. You make them, you don't have to sit on them all at once and then ship them as one thing. You're shipping them as you go. So it is much more of a print on demand kind of like, you know, model or situation. So there's that. So what would be an online retailer for Trench Crusade minis? So again, they're not available currently, but they will be soon. Eventually, you'll be able to buy them through just direct through probably one page, or not one page rules. Sorry, Only Games. I get those two confused because they both start with an O. Only Games, but for right now, there's not a place where you can buy the minis. So you either kitbash the minis or you hit the pledge manager probably next week. Or this week even, technically, I guess, now that it's Sunday. The pledge manager shall open up soon. And then if you have a friend with a 3D printer, or you have a 3D printer, or you know a guy, but you don't like him very much, but you can pay him to do 3D printing, or whatever the deal is, then you could get the STLs and then do it that way. But you could also just, like I said, find other STLs from other companies. You could, again, kit bash and do whatever you like. That's the thing that's cool about the game. What brand glasses are those? These? I got these from a company called Zenni, Zenni. These are the glasses that I wear when I'm on the computer because I have, what do you call them? Progressive lenses. They're like no-line bifocals. And these are my normal glasses. You probably see me wear during videos and stuff like that. But these are good for two things. Number one, they're designed to be focused close, so I can see the computer screen a lot better and everything like that without having to like lean my head way back to look through the like close-up section of these glasses. But when I look outside, I can't see stuff very well far away because everything's blurry because they're designed for close focus. The other thing is that they have the blue blocker stuff built into them, so you get less eye fatigue looking at computer screens. So they were cheap though. I mean, like that's the thing about Zenni is that I think both of these, not together, added together, but I think each of these pairs of glasses was maybe $70. They're pretty inexpensive and they work real nice. Massive tank and the artwork is crazy awesome. Yep. Trench Crusade has a great aesthetic, makes it very appealing. For me, a lot of the enthusiasm comes from having the old personalities from GW involved in it, like Gav Thorpe, Andy Chambers, and Thomas. Yeah, John Blanch is doing some artwork as well, so that's very cool. Speaking of, if you haven't seen, not this week, but I think last week, they posted a video at the Army Painter that kind of basically teased the new paint sets they're coming out with. They're coming out with 2 small paint sets or boxes about yay big, maybe a dozen paints in each, maybe 10, I don't know, something like that. And there's going to be 2 boxes of them, and they are like a Master Series John Blanch set. So those will be coming out in early or mid-January. And so, yeah, that's going to be very cool. It's a bunch of different colors that he's kind of worked up. There's going to be some Fanatic paints in there, which are the normal opaques, but there's also going to be some washes. There's going to be some speed paints. I think there's even a metallic or 2. So it's maybe even effect. Is there an effect paint? I'll have to go back and double check. But there's going to be a bunch of different paints that are going to be designed to be grimdark, John Blanch type stuff. And I'm really looking forward to it. So looking forward to it. What's the video that was just mentioned? What's the video that was just mentioned? I can't read that. Sorry. Trench Crusade video? I'm not sure. I made a video just recently about that. Oh, wait. Maybe it's Rogue Hobbies. She also made a video about it on Friday? Friday or Saturday, I think. Yeah, Friday, I think. Mike and Thomas had a great interview with Goonhammer. Nice. I wonder if they'll add in larger armies to the game. I personally hope not, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Trench Crusade is a bit too dark for me. I'm not sure why, but it crosses a line somewhere for me. That's valid. Haven't read the lore, and maybe they address it, but one of the YouTubers we watch, Kaz Rowe, not familiar, did a video on the Trench Crusade, and a lot of it was what was done was not good. I don't. The video wasn't good, or they didn't like the game. I don't know. Not exactly the kindly knight from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Not exactly. That's true. Good morning from Denver. How you doing? Really digging the Pro Krill Metallics right now. Nice. Iron Sultanate is such a goated faction. I'm not sure if I know what that means. See, also, Terry Jones presents the Crusades. I mean, that's kind of a Monty Python kind of gig. That'd be sort of funny. Seven-Headed Serpent would be the faction I would pick. Gotcha. Pilgrims are the crazy, not lazy people, lay people. That's different. Who decided to fight against the forces of hell. New Antioch are the formal military for the Christian church, and Iron Sultanate are the force of the Muslim faith. That makes sense. Looks like I could repurpose my Krieg kill team for this game. Sure, yeah, I think so. Trench Crusade is one of those exemplary word-of-mouth campaigns that blows up. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, because like I said, they've said they didn't spend any money on marketing, which is pretty awesome. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, is that rare. You know what I mean? Like I said in the video that I did, when you see a big successful Kickstarter, 99 times out of 100, they spent a buttload of money on marketing to get there. It's very rare that you get something that blows up like this with basically no marketing. And the downside is that I think people see stuff like this and they go, awesome, I can do a Kickstarter and make $3 million. And I'm like, no, you can't. You can't. More factions are in preliminary development depending on getting a viable playtest up that doesn't overlap with other ones. Interesting. Why don't you go miniature agnostic yourself? Thanks, Uncle Adam. I mean, I'm probably going to do that at some point. Like I said, when I get those little tiny machine guns and all that stuff, like those sets, and get a bunch of those things printed, then I can take other models, but then swap in the right guns. That's always the situation, is finding like the guns that look right. Like the models are one thing, but the guns looking right are the other things. I do wish there was more marketing. Missed the Kickstarter by one day. You should still be able to get into it. They're going to open up a pledge manager probably this week. Unless something happens, then maybe the week after. But yeah. I'd find $3.3 million intriguing, especially if it was going into my pocket. Now, there's going to be definite costs in producing the book, because they're going to make a hardcover fancy book for people. So there will be definitely costs that go into that. And obviously they also have to pay the sculptors and stuff like that. But I don't know that necessarily, like they're not, sometimes you see these Kickstarters that make a buttload of money and then you find out that they went out of business because they didn't plan properly, and they were like, oh, we're going to have this super fancy box for our board game and we're going to do all this and we're going to do all that. And it turns out that stuff's really expensive and hard to ship. What they're doing here, I think, is pretty smart, because not only did they just basically make, hey, yeah, we're going to make a book and we're going to work with this other company that's already a proven company to ship models. Otherwise, it's STLs, which are digital, which we don't have to worry about shipping or warehousing or producing or blah, blah, blah. And we got to pay the artists and we got to pay the sculptors, obviously. But their stretch goals too were super smart. Rather than making a stretch goal where they're like, oh, well, we're going to sculpt a whole bunch of extra stuff in a stretch goal, or we're going to do a bunch of this or a bunch of that. Instead, their stretch goals were mostly like, hey, we're going to pay Andy Chambers to write a story, or we're going to pay Gav Thorpe to write a story, and stuff like that, which stories, as it turns out, don't need warehousing. They don't need shipping. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot of it. So I thought that was a smart move too. Doing great today. Still painting up that kill team starter with some blood angels, working on captain with a fancy backpack. Great hearing more about Trench Crusade too. Nice. Played a 4-player game of Argle Bargle last Friday. It was fun. Well, that's great to hear. Absolutely. Everything moved. Stupid chat. I mean, you people aren't stupid. The chat function is bad. Wow, I'm way behind. Doot, 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 doot. It's pronounced tuomus. I can't say that. I'm like choose. So it's tumus. I should probably ask him. Like I said. There we go. Okay. Hello from a pickup truck in Scotland. Surprised I caught the stream. Alternate World War I has become a popular setting recently. Any bets on what the next one will be? My money's on medieval sci-fi or Rome. I mean, Rome could be a thing. People are always talking about how, you know, evidently men think about the Roman Empire every day, which honestly, I must not be a dude then, because I don't really think about the Roman Empire much at all. Is there an FAQ somewhere for Argle Bargle? There's not yet. I would hit the Discord. If you hit the Discord, though. If you go to snarlingbadger.com, up on the top of the website up there, there's a Discord icon. If you click on that, it'll take you to the Discord, and then there's different sections, and there's one of the sections is for Snarl, which is for the, just Snarl in general, and one of them's for hobby, and one of them's for rules. So you could ask there if you've got, there's conversations and stuff going on in there. Looking forward to future alternate sculpts for the various official minis with different armaments for more modular building, a la current Pilgrims, but for more special units. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of a downside at this point. Like, the reasons that I'm interested, also partially the reasons I'm interested in Heretic Crusade Heretic Legion and Trench Pilgrims is because they're normal, regular old units have alternate. Oh, why can't? Oh, it's over there. Nope, come on. So, oh geez, wrong one. I am not a fan of the Kickstarter website. I got to be honest with you, folks. It's a weird setup. So Heretic Legion, the Heretic Troopers are multi-part kits, which means you can swap what they have and stuff like that, which is cool. And you can do the same with, well, see, here's the thing. In New Antioch, they don't say multi-part kits. For the Yeoman, it says includes head options for gas masks or the regular helmets, but otherwise there's not like weapons tweaking. So that bothers me, because I would like what if I want multiple guys with the same gun, but I don't want them all to be exactly the same pose? That's why I like the multi-part stuff, which is why I'm also interested in these guys. The Trench Pilgrims are also multi-part kits, so that's why I'm interested in them. Whereas the Janissaries and the Azebs don't seem to be multi-part, because otherwise you'd think they would have said it. Same with with the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent, it's all over the board. But yeah, so hopefully they do that as well, where they make some alternate sculpts with different stuff. But like I said, my main plan, besides just using the stuff that they've got that are multi-part, is also getting into the kits that have the these things, all the accessories and the weapons and jazz like that. So probably we'll do that as well. People are always asking, when can I have big units about skirmish and duel games? Yeah, I mean, physically, like large models, I'm actually getting kind of tired of. But I've been painting 3 stupid giants for Sons of Bahamut Spearhead. I've been painting them on Twitch for like a long time, and I'm not a fan of painting big models, I've found. It turns out, yeah. Keeping games small scale is the right direction, in my opinion. Let the big battles be in the splash page art. Sure, I agree. So we're currently 35 minutes behind the current comments time, so standard. Yeah, that's the way it works. Vehicles being added should be more like Necromunda Ash Wastes. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan. Like, some of those models are cool, but the gameplay is very different than regular Necromunda, so it is kind of odd, Or Achtung Panzer, where the vehicles are a skirmish game on their own. Potentially, yeah, I could see that. I read that John Hayter, the original Napoleon Dynamite, is making a documentary on Grimdark and will include a chapter on Trench Crusade. Yeah, he was at the wargaming club that Maddie Knuckles plays at, or maybe runs. I'm not sure. Maddie Knuckles from Knucklebones Miniatures. Because I'm friends with Maddie on Facebook as well, and he just posted he's like, oh, so Napoleon Dynamite is at our club today making a documentary, and I was like, wow. And yeah, there is a trailer for it out there now. I think it's just called something like Searching. It's like The Grim and the Dark, I believe. Yeah. little late to the party. Just wanted to say hi. Well, how you doing? Let's see here. Are there plans to print in different regions at present for the minis? I don't know. Oh, it says there are plans. See, because I've only heard so far about not one page rules. I keep saying that. Only games. But if they do multiple different places, that'd be great. That'd be the smart place to do it. I just don't know of any of those other places. But I do hope that that's what they do. Like I said, I'm just going to have my friend Dave print them for me, and I will pay him to do that, and then we're both happy. I think that more people, like, if you can find somebody that has a 3D printer and you can trust them and whatnot, and they actually do the work that they do or whatever, it is a not bad idea to utilize those folks, because you can get all kinds of really crazy, weird, hard to find stuff printed, and then they've got like a reason for having a printer. Because there's a lot of people I see, especially on YouTube, who are like 3D printer like review channels, and they just print the same like Baby Yoda bust over and over again, or like, you know, like zombie Captain America for some reason or whatever. And I'm like, if you're just going to buy a 3D printer because you think 3D printing is cool, you should probably start finding people who need stuff 3D printed and to sell that stuff to them. I'm not saying you got to monetize all your hobbies. I'm not one of those guys, frankly, though that is what I've done with my life. That being said, I think that it's, I don't know, like, I would just like to see, especially in wargaming, I'd like to see more people using 3D printed stuff, because they can find such crazy, weird stuff that you can't find anywhere else. When you go and look for weird stuff on places like My Mini Factory, Cults 3D, the other ones, different Patreons, all kinds of stuff like that, you can get really interesting models that are a lot of fun to paint and cool stuff. Like all the models that we used in, I think, well, no, there were some models that weren't, but most of the models that we used in the photography for Rain and Hell were all cool 3D printed models, and some of them are just amazing. So, yeah, I would just like to see more people having access to it. Like, I'm not telling you to go and get yourself a 3D printer. You know, like I bought a 3D printer and I've never started the thing up yet because it makes me nervous because of all the goo and all that kind of stuff. And I know that there's plenty of people out there that are like, it's not a problem, it's fine. 3D printing FDM for terrain and stuff like that I've gotten into, and I've been enjoying it. But again, it's because they finally made some 3D printers that work really, really well and kind of like are nearly plug and play. Like, again, I've showed you guys this before. This is the little benchmark boat that I printed from my Bamboo Labs printer. They call it Benchy. And so it's this little boat, and that's how you know that your printer's working or whatever. From the time I cut the tape on the box from my printer to the time this thing popped off the plate was less than an hour. It's astoundingly fast and also really easy to set up. I've got a Bamboo Labs A1, not a sponsor or anything like that, but if you're looking for that type of thing, the Bamboo Labs printers for FDM, the filament with the big spool and the plastic, work great. But like I said, I'm still a bit nervous about the liquid resin stuff, but that's why I've got my friend Dave, because he's into that kind of stuff and has a whole bunch of printers and wants to kind of start a side business, and so that's cool. Once he ever gets his website set up, I'll let you folks know, and then you can get yourself a Dave as well and get some stuff printed. Tenacious is interesting. It's very rubbery, and if you look at the promo material, they advertise it as great for making wheels and other things like that. See, I have a model printed with Tenacious, and it is a lizard, like a sci-fi lizard guy with a rocket launcher on him. It's from One Page Rules, and it was actually gifted to me by Jefferson, who is Param on the One Page Rules, like Discord and all that kind of stuff. He's like their communications guy, community guy. Super nice. Came to TMX 2022? 2021? No. We didn't have one. 2022 or 2023. I forget. Maybe 2023. Anyway, he came and had a booth at TMX, which was very nice. And he gave me this model. And it was like on the last day of the show. It was like on Sunday. And he's like, yeah, this is what. And he's like, yeah, and we use this stuff. We mix in this Tenacious stuff. And it's really cool. And all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, it's very cool. He's like, yeah, it's really sturdy. And we're standing on tile, like down in the basement of this building where the TMX, the Tabletop Minions Expo is. And he takes it, he throws it on the tile, like hard. And it doesn't break. And I've not finished painting it, but it's half painted. And so I think that's where we're going to see 3D printing stuff going into making it a lot more sturdy. But that guy doesn't feel rubbery in any way fashion. He doesn't seem bendy. So I think it's a mixture. It depends on how much Tenacious you put in versus how much like regular stuff, or I'm not sure. But I like the name. I think Tenacious is a great name for a resin additive to make it so the stuff doesn't break as easily. But like I said, I think it is also a mixture. I mixed with Elegoo Gray, and it did make stuff a lot better. I just worked out the ratio by weight and pre-mixed a bottle. Well, that makes sense. It's a good idea. Night Haunts and Machine Guns is very cool. I saw a picture of that when someone had kitbashed. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I would like to do it myself. I've been thinking about giving Night Haunts a gun anyway, but like sci-fi, just for something to use like in Space Weirdos or any kind of game like that. But yeah, it is. I'm not sure yet, but now I'm thinking especially with those kits that you can get as part of the Kickstarter with the different guns, that'd be perfect. A late pledge to just get STL access to those accessory sprues would be worth it. Yeah, like I said, should be coming up this week or next at the latest. Let's see here. Thing about those accessory kits is the anachronistic weapons. Yeah, I can see that. Some are clearly World War II and even Cold War. I think the concept is that because yeah, you're right. In the church weapons, there's an RPG-7. I'm looking right at it. So again, when you have nothing but war from 1099 to 1914, you're going to have different technologies. Certain technologies are going to get like pushed forward and stuff like that. And I think that's a cool concept as well. Hello from Athens. I'm enjoying the stream while sculpting some minis. Nice. Does Mantic have a skirmish fantasy game? I thought Ambush was coming back. What the heck's it called? Shoot. It's a name that GW started to use. Vanguard. Yeah. Because like it was Kings of War Vanguard, I'm pretty sure. And then GW was like, hey, we made these boxes. We call them Vanguard boxes. And then I guess there was a problem. And now those boxes are called Spearhead boxes. So yeah. But Vanguard, I'm pretty sure, is the skirmish fantasy game. Warp Spiders back in the 90s may be interested in the Eldar. It's great seeing them get an update. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that the Eldar fans got some updates finally, because it's been a long time. Trench Crusade seems a little interesting, but I don't like how my FLGS won't be selling it because it seems like this will be an STL Kickstarter game. It is probably not something you'll be able to get in stores because that's not the direction that they're going in. I think that the thing is that you'll be able to buy models from your store to use for kit bashing. Like if you wanted to get some cool like World War I looking guys from Wargames Atlantic. So you buy some Wargames Atlantic boxes of their like French or German or even British like World War I guys. You buy those from your local store if they carry Wargames Atlantic, which unfortunately a lot of stores don't. A lot of stores, I think, are putting themselves into a position where they only depend upon Warhammer. And so you go in there and you're like, hey, do you have anything for Frostgrave? And they're like, no, we just carry. That stuff doesn't sell. I'm like, well, it doesn't if you don't try to sell it, I guess. And not all stores. There's plenty of stores out there that do good work, but there's also a lot of stores that are just like, well, we just get Warhammer. Well, then you're only going to have Warhammer until all of a sudden people start to get tired of Warhammer, and then you're going to have a big pile of Warhammer that people don't want to buy as much anymore. But I bet GW will raise the price that week. So yeah, it's a rough place to be a store these days, in my opinion, because if all you do is lean on Warhammer, you're putting yourself in a bad position. And we're in a position now where you're getting technology where a company can raise $3 million for basically a product that they're going to sell direct. And I don't know this. My suspicion is like, if you do the Kickstarter, you can get a hardcover fancy schmancy book. But they have also said in the Kickstarter that they will always have a softcover book available for people if people still want a printed version. If you just want to download it and have it a PDF, that'll always be free as well. That's in the Kickstarter. But what they didn't say about the softcover is whether or not it's print on demand. If it's print on demand, then that's kind of also difficult for stores to carry. If it is something where they get it like printed someplace and they have a whole bunch of them and they send them through distribution, then at the very least your store can opt to be like, okay, well, we'll carry the softcover book here in the store so people can buy it. And then maybe they'll buy some models from us to kit bash into stuff for the game. But if they're smart, in my opinion, Trench Crusade people, they'll make that book print on demand. because then they don't have to warehouse it. They don't have to ever worry about whether they should print more or not. Oh, we ran through 5,000. Do we do another 5,000 or do we do 3,000? If we do 3,000, the unit price goes up. What if we do that? You know, that kind of stuff. They never have to think about that. Like again, with Vince and I, we doing print on demand. We've got a soft cover, right? So here's your soft cover. It can be inexpensive. It can be shipped anywhere in the world, and we never have to think about it. We don't have to have a warehouse of them and go, oh, geez, how many do we got left? You know, we got to ship out 16 this week or whatever. It's so if they were smart, I would think that they would do this. They would go through a company like Wargame Vault and do print on demand. Now, ours are black and white on the inside, sure, but you can also do them in color. It just costs more. But, you know, that would be what I would think that they would do with the second wave of the rule book, you know, that they do down the road, the soft cover. The initial hardcover, I'm sure they'll go through someplace, get it printed to someplace and ship them out and do all that the standard way. But yeah, I can see stores not being particularly interested in this because there's not a lot for them in it. And there's not much that they can do about it. They being Trench Crusade. There's not a lot, you know, because they're not a big enough company to be like, well, we're going to do all this giant stuff and all that kind of stuff. They may get to that point someday, maybe. It'd be great someday down the road to see plastic, like hard plastic on the sprue Trench Crusade kits that are available in stores. But then, of course, the question is, how many stores are just going to go, that stuff doesn't sell. I'm just going to keep selling Warhammer. I mean, that's also the question. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Trench Crusade feels like a spiritual successor to Mordheim and feels like a space for exploration of that aesthetic rules-wise and campaign-wise in-game campaign rather than Kickstarter campaign. Yes, I got you. I got what you meant. But yeah, I agree. I like the Doom 1490. I think it's 1490 Doom. Now that you mentioned it, because I read it that way and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. It's 1490 Doom. But yes, I know what you're talking about. I like that model. Cheap rule set and Kitbash models. Yeah. 1490 Doom is also very cool if you're interested in that kind of thing. You buy the rule set, it's a PDF, and then you Kitbash everything. They're not selling models, they're not selling jack. Also, the thing that's very cool about 1490 Doom is that your warband is 3 models. That's it. You need 3 models, and your opponent needs 3 models, and it is a game basically of try to be king of the hill. It's played on a 2-foot by 2-foot board, and it's best if the board is round, if it's a circle, which is interesting as well. Do some searching for 1490 Doom online. They've also got some YouTube videos that are out there as well. They've put out like different battle reports and stuff like that to kind of show you how the game works and everything like that. But it's a cool concept. It really is. Campaign books would be book for that game in the short term. I could see something like that, adding in new type of campaigns that you can choose to buy or not buy if you don't want to. Yeah. Let's see here. There was nothing better as a kid than snow days and gathering at a friend's house for games. Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, I absolutely. Upper Midwest can have very harsh winters unless you like winter sports. You got to fill the time somehow. Also true. Been playing, you don't have to use trenches, ruins, and rubble, or fine spooky did forest. Yeah, that's what it looked like in the rules. It kind of made sense to me. I've just seen a lot of people building trenches, and I'm like, that's cool, but it's harder, you know what I mean, to build a board like that. And again, it doesn't, like it, I don't know. Most of World War I didn't happen in trenches since the Western Front was where the trench warfare was used, while the rest of was more conventional battlefields. Yeah, I would think so too. That being said, I've always wanted to build a trench board, maybe, but you know, because also it'd be something fun to use for the Last War. But Last War is predominantly played on a 2x2, so I guess I could build 4 2x2 boards, and then that way I could make a 4x4 and try to figure out a good way to make them, like, I don't want to say infinitely modular, but more modular. That's a good question. Previews of the terrain that they released were trench-based, but gamers are inventive and will wreck any designer's best intentions. That's the thing, too, is that, like, yeah, if you go and look at the, if you look at the way down here, past the dice, past the, they do have trench terrain. Oh, I went too far. That they're STLs that they're selling that are designed to be printed in FDM. Yeah, I was right there. So yeah, they've got all these, like, here's a bunch of trenches from above, and here's like some, so like basically you're cutting, I don't know, like 1.5 inch, like let's say pink foam or something like that. And then you're just putting these 3D printed sort of kind of things over the lip, and then that way, and that's how you make your trenches and stuff. So it's kind of neat. I think it's a cool concept. But you can buy the entire Trench Crusade bundle of terrain for $45 if it's an STL. Which is the smart way to do, because if you buy a physical and you get it for $81, well, you only get as much as they print for you. Whereas if you get the STLs, then you can just print as much as you need. So if you need more and more pieces of this straight piece or whatever the deal is, you can keep doing that. So it makes a lot of sense. Armored Clash is 10 millimeter Dystopian Wars. Oh, that would make sense. Yeah, those guys bought Dystopian Wars, right? Afternoon from Cloudy Nottingham feels like they could easily expand to include Orthodox Christians, Constantinople. I kind of like the look of the mechs and plastered with the gold-plated Orthodox icons. Sure, could be. Warlord has some good ruined farmhouse type terrain. Oh yeah, I own a bunch of those. They're great. As much as I'm not a fan of Grimdark, I'm happy to see more competition. As for Trench Crusade with the factions, they could certainly make a tabletop airplane game. There is talk about there being flying vehicles in the game, but I don't remember what it's. I saw somebody talk about how it was in the lore, but I don't. Yeah. Henry Cavill will strike if they stop with the miniatures. Well, he's probably got a lot of money. He could start making the miniatures himself. Let's see here. If you like fixed to hit numbers and just adding or subtracting dice, you should play Mantic games. Guild Miniatures Games did a review of this 2-player starter. It looks ideal. Oh, I think I missed something attached to that. Oh, for Armored Clash? Gotcha. I like to buy badly painted cheap stuff, strip it, and prime it, and repaint it. The issue is if the person thinks that it's very well painted, they're going to say ask a lot more money for it. But if it's just like, here's a bunch of stuff that I got under my bed, it's half painted, I got to get rid of it, then you generally sell it for cheap, and then you can go through and strip it or just prime over the top, depending on how they did it. But yeah. New Star Trek spaceship game is having some really nice pre-painted model. I saw them at Gen Con, and I'm interested, but I don't think it's still shipped yet, has it? I hope it's shipped. I should go back and check, but last time I looked, which was maybe like in September, it hadn't shipped yet, or maybe it was October. So yeah, I should take a look. But yeah, I forget what it's called. Into the Unknown, maybe? Into the Void? Into the Unknown? I don't know. But it's like a Star Trek pre-painted game from WizKids, I think, and I'm kind of interested. Did you see Dustin, Two Thin Coats, uploaded a video painting a Rackham confrontation model? Love those sculpts. I don't think I know Dustin from Two Thin Coats. I know Duncan. Maybe that's a different guy. If someone was trying to sell me a mini and they had as many golden demons as Sam, I'd take it. Well, he didn't have as many back then. He had some, but not as many as he does now. Not sure about the company they're doing the models through and don't have a printer. Well, you can always kitbash stuff. Exactly. They found a really sharp D4 made of human bone. Well, that doesn't sound fun. Yeah, you would step on that. That would hurt a lot. I know you and Vince have talked about not wanting to create a gaming environment for your systems. Would you ever let a third-party one use using your rules? I don't know what that would even look like. Like someone writing... Yeah, we haven't really talked about like third-party stuff like that. I don't know what kind of legal shenanigans we would have to go through on that. I'm sure there's some, but maybe not as much as we would think. I was hoping the price on Pustus the Vile Plaguecaster would drop now that the Kickstarter Kill Team starter set is widely available. Still ridiculous pricing out there on eBay. Yeah, so like that guy is one of those Space Marine heroes. Like I don't know what I'm getting in the box. Like, have you ever seen those before? They started, I think, in Japan, but they've spread out. So it's like you put it up at the register, let's say, and it's a box, like a little thing, and inside of it's got like 8 little boxes, and it'll have like, oh, these are all Death Guard, and you're like, oh, that's cool, but you don't know which one's in there, right? And so you peel it and you open it up, and it's like those blind boxes for I've got one right here for like BattleTech, right? So it's like these. Like I don't know what BattleTech mech is in here. I open it up and then I find out, right? Same type of thing, but for specific versions of Warhammer 40K stuff. They did it for Death Guard. They did it for Blood Angel Terminators. I don't know. They invented it for a bunch of different ones. I've got a couple. VJ Morph sent me one from when they were only available in Japan, which is very nice. But now I think you can get them in America at the very least. I don't know about UK or Europe or any places like that. So the newest Kickstarter, I've been saying Kickstarter too much. The newest Kill Team starter box, there was the word starter in there, has 2 forces in it, Space Marines and the Death Guard. But both of those boxes, or both of those forces, are from those Space Marine Heroes blind box sets, including the one blind box guy that was in there that was more rare than usual. So if you wanted that particular model, you had to go on eBay to find somebody who was willing to sell the one that they got, which was rare, blah, blah, blah. But now it's just you buy the starter and there it is. But if you don't want to buy the starter, you just want that one model, it's still kind of expensive, even though now that guy's not as rare as he used to be because he's in the starter. That's the whole point, I guess, which is interesting. It's an odd system that they've decided to go down there. I'm confused by that as well. I have 4 projects to break my new airbrush. Break in. You don't want to break your brush. You want to break it in. That makes sense. Your new airbrush this afternoon. Nice. Morning from the middle of nowhere, Texas. I'm mostly excited for the Iron Sultanate. Nice. I don't think I've ever seen a miniature army based around Islam and Middle Eastern culture and done so well. I mean, there was Hawk Islam in Infinity, but they were not as like over the top, obviously, as Whoops, I forgot to turn off that thing over there. They were not as over the top as the Sultanate there. That is a good point. Good afternoon from Dublin, Ireland. I'm excited for Trench Crusade. I want to make an Erie Rangers warband, a new Antioch sub-faction, but struggling to find suitable World War I era Irish Marines. I could see that, Kickstarter was ruined by Cool Mini. I don't know if it's ruined, but they've definitely done some work on it, and not in a good way, I think. Cool Mini has jumped onto GameFound now, ruining that platform in the same way. That was a bummer. Grim Dorkness. I'm planning on Erie Rangers Warband 2. One thing I've been using is World War II Anzacs STLs to copy the slouch hat. Nice. At this point, some of those big companies own and run their own crowdfunding. Hasbro Pulse, yeah. I've done just like Hasbro being like, well, we don't want to have to, we don't want to give Kickstarter the extra money that we would have to use by using it. So we'll just build our own Kickstarter from scratch. Like, you don't have the money to do that and have Kickstarter, but you'll build your own Kickstarter. Oy. Zenny Optical is neat for well-priced glasses. Yeah, I've been very happy with them. Let's see here. Got me through a 10K run. Thanks. Oh my goodness gracious. Trench Crusade looks and sounds so cool, and great to see an actual person or passion project pop off like this. Yeah, absolutely. I paint without my glasses. I have a tendency to look over the top of my glasses. John Blanch said, is it 15 different shades of brown and gray? No, it's a lot of like warm colors. I mean, there's a couple of cool colors in there too, but it's a warmer palette. Definitely a lot of reds and ochres and stuff like that. They stated that the Trench Crusade Pledge Manager date will be revealed tomorrow. Revealed tomorrow. That's fun. I just kind of thought it was this week upcoming, but yeah. I thought seeing an ad for the John Blanch paint set was an especially vivid cheese nightmare. Nope. Rather than agonizing over what colors I'd bring for my travel hobby kit, I think I might buy one of those smaller paint sets. Makes sense. I know what goat means, but I don't know what goated means. It seems like a past tense. I don't know. Anyway, I'm old. Let's see here. I know there's been several interviews with Trench Crusade alumni, but the one I've seen that I found most useful to understand the whole thing was with Jordan Sorcery on their podcast channel. Nice. Set to be the greatest of all time. Oh, I see. So it's not there yet, but it's gonna be? Okay, all right. You kids today with your slang. Skibbity. Can you provide information on board size and terrain style except for Trench Crusade? So they say in the rules, doohickey, if we scroll way back up to the front, nope, missed it. There we go. Let's see. You will need a gaming surface to play on. We suggest 2 surface sizes for games, 48 by 48 inches, which is 4 foot by 4 foot, or 36 by 36 inches. This allows the game to be played on a typical kitchen table. So it's either 3 foot by 3 foot or 4 foot by 4 foot. It's kind of up to you, which I think makes sense. Like every game that we always make, me and Vince, we're always like, this is the size we suggest, but you do what you want. You know, it's not going to be the end of the world. So yeah, generally it's either a 3 foot by 3 foot or a 4 foot by 4 foot. I'm slightly more interested in 3 foot by 3 foot, but again, your mileage may vary. And then as far as terrain and stuff like that, let's see, the terrain is also necessary, and the more you have of it, the better. Trench Crusade is a game of position and tactics, so different types of elevation, cover, and varied terrain pieces, will all enhance your gaming experience. I know you do get a benefit for being up high and shooting down at somebody. You get a +1 die on that or something like that. Because they've got their plus dice and minus dice. That's kind of how they do their modifications on, like, you know, things like when you're in cover, you have a -1 die to hit. And when you're this, and when you're shooting at somebody who's below you and you're above, then you get a +1. It's all kinds of cool stuff like that. Modifiers. Enemies behind cover add -1 dice to the roll. Long range, if the target is more than half of the weapon's maximum range, add -1 dice. Shooting from elevated position, add +1 dice to hit rolls of the model. So yeah, it's a mechanic that you use where you're basically shifting and adding another die, and then you still roll them and you get to pick the best two, or you're subtracting, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah. But you can get that free, that document for free is if you just go to trenchcrusade.com. They've got the free playtest rules. You can download it and check it out yourself. Everyone should have a Dave. I agree. Hey, there's Dave right there. These are the Daves I know. I've been printing out his models and a 90-10 mix of fast and tenacious. Nice. Let's see. The lore of Trench Crusade, the space race started in the 19th century rather than the mid-20th. Yeah, so technology's moved a little bit behind or ahead because of, you know, just constant war. Yeah, it kind of works like that. Mantic has King's War Vanguard is their skirmish game. Yep. Let's see here. Second local FLGS here is about to shut down because they opened. I have nothing but Warhammer, and the price increases. Almost no one is buying in store. So the shop is now selling nothing. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, it's a weird time to be in a shop right now, I think, because not only is GW constantly raising prices and all that kind of stuff, and that makes it difficult. But then look at Magic. If you sell Magic, like, I got a friend that owns a store, and he's just like, Magic, it's like they're trying to run everybody out of business. You know what I mean? They're just putting out new sets like on the month, like every month or every 3 weeks, it almost seems like. And they're also selling stuff direct, and they're doing, it's a mess. So yeah. Let's see here. It's actually interesting. I know 2 people in the Toronto area who buy direct from GW at heavy discount, don't run a physical location, and have full access to the entire catalog. I wonder how they do that. Weird. Makes it hard for retailers with floor space to pay for it to compete with people buying wholesale direct from GW and selling from home. Yeah, that's crazy. Scratch building your own terrain from trash and junk is an experience every gamer should attempt at some point. I agree. Really enjoyed the stream. Absolutely. Yeah, it's getting near the end for me over here too. Got overexcited back in the cool new miniature tabletop wargaming. Now I have a collection of battle mimes, war baguettes, and cannon birch cheese minis. I don't know. Oh, you did French Crusade. Oh, I get you. Yep. No, that'll happen. That is a bummer. Let's see here. Campaign book. Roll a d6 to determine which scenario to play. Yeah. Went on a limb and got a couple boxes from Wargames Atlantic and kitbashed a couple warbands for Trench Crusade. Some of the most fun I've had in a while. Really great kits. The Wargames Atlantic World War I guys are awesome. Whether you're interested in playing Trench Crusade, or if you're interested in playing Turnip 28, or if you're interested in playing Last War. Any 3 of those games, those models are awesome for. More stores should be carrying Wargames Atlantic stuff. Not like, 7 of each box or anything like that, but they should definitely be keeping Wargames Atlantic stuff in stock, and I rarely see it in stores, and it bums me out because they make a lot of great stuff. Random pack started in Japan. They love that stuff due to the whole Gachapon thing. Sure, makes sense. Yep. GW keep pushing more and more online GW store sales than retail stores, like limited items available only for short times and shipped one time for, yeah. Have they announced late pledges? They've evidently announced that tomorrow they're going to announce it. Like, but it's either this week or next. Depends, I suppose. I mean, they're not having to deal with, well, I don't know. Mike might be American, so he might have a Thanksgiving thing, but yeah, it's supposed to be either this week or next. Iron Sultan has an amazing look. Thanks for Space Station Zero, one of 2 games that got me through deployment. Well, that's great to hear. I'm glad to hear it. Just hope that Trench Crusade has more staying power than other indie small tabletop games and not fizzle out like a candle. It all depends on, I guess, the community, really, you know. As long as they don't try to make it a big company, you know what I mean? Like right off the bat. That's always the hard part, is when someone is like look at Rivenstone. I'm going to like tie this up here because it's 11 o'clock in my time. But Rivenstone was started by a company that was an established company. They were already making stuff, not necessarily a lot in the gaming space, but they were a company that had been making things for quite some time. And then they made Rivenstone and put a ton of money into it and went big. And it's what I call the curse of big time, when you try to go real big as opposed to start small and grow slowly. And then they just couldn't pull it off, you know? They had a huge staff of people writing for the game and doing all this stuff. Trench Crusades started with a lot fewer people, and it's doing like baby steps, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, is this ever going to beat 40K? No, probably not. I don't think so. I don't know why they would, and I don't think it's important. I think it's important to make games that are alternates, that are things that people enjoy. Like, again, you know, Vince and I make stuff that people enjoy, but we're never going to be a big company. We don't want to be a big company. We both technically have day jobs. He's got more of a day job than I do, but that's just the way it works. So, yeah, I think that a lot of people look at it as like, well, who's going to be the winner? Who's going to be the one and it's not that type of zero-sum game, like I said in the video. I think it's about having lots of options. And will it be a situation you can walk into any store at any time and play a game of Trench Crusade with a rando that's just standing there with their army ready to go? No. But you can't even do that with 40K in most situations. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Anyway, I'm a go. I got to get going. It's 11 a.m. here in my neck of the woods, so it's time for me to end. But thanks to everyone for coming by. And if you're interested, take a look at Trench Crusade. Again, not sponsored. I don't have any affiliation. But take a look at it. The rules are free, so you can check them out, download them, and maybe bash some stuff together, or wait till the stuff comes out in STLs, or whatever you want to do. But yeah, definitely take a look if you're interested. And if not, don't take a look. That's what I tell you. But have yourselves a good weekend, the rest of you, or some of you are already at Monday. I hope you have a good week. For those of us in America, I hope you have a good Thanksgiving if you get to do that kind of stuff, if that's the kind of thing you like to do. I'll be eating some turkey and some pie and hanging out with some family, so that'll be nice. Otherwise, I'll be back here in 2 weeks. I'll be doing Twitch tomorrow night, like I always do, 7 o'clock Central Time, twitch.tv /Tabletop Minions. And I should really make a button over here that I can push that makes that thing pop up. I used to have one in the old setup. I got to make a new one. Yeah, so we'll see you then. And have yourselves a good rest of your weekend. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.